Grab your cocktail and get ready for this episode of the Old Fashioned Masonic Podcast. Welcome to the Old Fashioned Masonic Podcast, where we talk all things Freemasons while drinking an old fashioned. I'm Brian, and with me from, an undisclosed place with a lot of sun and a pool in the background, we've got brother David Thomas. How are you, my friend?
Awesome.
See, look what he's holding. See, now he's giving my secret out. He's holding the tee up, and I had to say I'm doing the same thing, so I just don't get rocked on this damn episode. So Dave, welcome to the podcast. We are going to talk about all sorts of stuff, and you'll be a very unique guest. And folks who see the thumbnail coming in, they'll understand why. So, Dave, before we start talking about Masonry and the other stuff in your life, let's push that to the side. Let's tell everyone who Dave the Man is, but I only want you to go up until you exited the Army. So just start from the beginning up until when you exited, and we'll catch up later.
Okay. Just a young kid growing up in West Virginia. We like to say West by God, Virginia, when you're from there. My dad owned 2 coal mines, so he basically employed all of our extended family and relatives. Everyone worked the mines, and I actually hung out at the mines a lot. And my dad kind of gave me a job there when I was 10. So it was kind of cool. Although going down deep in that mine when I was 10, it scared the living daylights out of me, man. It was like, because it started out big and it got really small and dark. And I was like, yeah, not for me. But we just grew up in West Virginia, and it was before my dad owned those coal mines. He worked for a big mining company called A.T. Massey, which, huge company. And there was a time when he was like security. My dad was a former Green Beret, Vietnam vet, volunteered 2 tours in Nam. And so he was there. He was like the head of their security. And there was a time I remember in the 80s, mid 80s, growing up in West Virginia was wild. It was, I want to say probably around 84, 85. There was about a 6-month period when my dad had me and my brothers and sisters all sleep on the floor for like 6 months because he was afraid someone was going to do a drive-by on the house. And because there was, strikes, and, I can't even find it. I've looked and tried to find footage of it on YouTube and other places, and I can't find any footage of it. But there used to be a lot of footage that showed, at least we had it. We lost the VCR tape, but it showed there at the time in 85 down in some of these parts of West Virginia when they were doing these big mine strikes. There was 5,000 guys out there on the street wearing ski masks and holding baseball bats, walking down the street. They had to call in the Kentucky State Police. And even those guys, like even with West Virginia and Kentucky police combined, they were still flipping over trucks and burning and, jack rocks and just, it was a crazy time. And, my dad was doing crazy stuff even then. He was, I remember it was snowing one year, and it was like during the strike, and he took my uncle and took white sheets and went and like snuck up on all the guys that were striking and like listening to them talk all night. And then, would come back, and I'm just like, that's kind of wild. What kind of a job that does that when you're, but being, and my parents just never really, they raised us like adults, really. Like even as kids, we just watched whatever we wanted to watch. We just, and my dad being a Vietnam vet, although he didn't talk about it a lot, me and my brother were just fascinated with the stuff. My dad owned a lot of assault weapons at the time. So, and he did teach us. So, when I was a kid, I was, taking apart AK-47s and AR-15s and Uzis and helping him clean them just because it was fun. And I was like, just got through watching, Platoon or something, and now I wanted to play with the M16. So so I was just all into, I could take apart weapons, like before, I think most kids could, I was playing with guns and taking apart weapons and cleaning them and doing that kind of stuff. And my dad would take us out shooting. So, I learned the fundamentals of marksmanship real early and how to shoot real early. And I would go out, and even when my parents would leave, I would just like break into the gun cabinet and take some guns out and just go out and shoot.
But that was the thing growing up, right? I grew up guns all over. That wasn't a thing. I mean, and we'd go out and you'd shoot in the back area, and that's just what you did. There wasn't, people weren't playing around with guns. And then you fast forward into school, we had them in the back of the trucks going to school because you'd hunt before, hunt after. And at
100%.
least in our generation, we didn't think about shooting up schools. I mean, you'd go give an ass whooping, take an ass whooping, but you never thought about taking and shooting it up. Is that, I mean, the same in West Virginia, right?
100%. I mean, I remember kids all going to school with, camouflage. And this is in junior high,
Yeah.
coming to school in camouflage fatigues because they were hunting right before school.
Right, right.
And yeah, and I remember even having guys with guns in the back of the, in the window, 30-30s and stuff, and
Right.
nobody even thought. I remember guys going to school like that. How about that later on? And no, the school didn't have a problem with it. Like no one ever even said anything. Like no
Wasn't
one
a
even
thing.
it wasn't a thing. And when, like you said, when it was time to fight, I remember it was like it was fight. Everyone, and there would be a certain place that we called the eternal flame. It was just this methane gas that would come out of the ground, and you could light it, and it would just burn. And people would go to there, and that was the fighting spot. If you had beef with somebody, you went there and
Yeah.
you handled it. And I don't remember one person bringing a knife or anything that was like outside the rules.
So fast forward. So fast forward now. So young kid, got to experience a lot of guns. You had a dad that was in the military. Fast forward. So you decided to join the military and take off from there.
Yeah, so my brother, again, so my dad was a Green Beret, and then my brother joined before me. He was an Army Ranger, and at that time there was only three berets: the Green Beret, the Black Beret, and the Maroon Beret.
Now it's
And
like
so
Oprah. Everybody gets a beret here. Oh,
now, yeah, everybody gets there. Yeah, and they actually took the Rangers black one and gave it to everybody, and then gave
yeah, you
them a
get the
brown
old
one.
tan. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. Yeah. So, but back then there was only the three berets, and although I wanted to go into the Rangers, my brother had, and I was like, all right, I didn't want to do what he did, so let me do something different, and let me get the third beret to, complete the trifecta for the family, and really, my only real desire, my real goal was I just wanted to be a sniper. Shooting
Yep.
was my thing, and that was what I really enjoyed. So that was really that was my only real main goal. That and jumping out of airplanes. I wanted to have fun jumping out of
Right,
airplanes
right,
too.
right.
So, and I said, I want airborne, I want infantry, and I did. I came home, told my dad, I was like, hey, I signed up. He's like, did you? What'd you get? And I told him airborne infantry. And he was like, all right, well, it is what it is. He kind of acted, and then later on, I heard him call my brother, and he was like, yeah, he did it, airborne range, airborne. It's just like, let's he's
And they're
following
like,
it.
did he at least get, your brother's like,
Yeah,
did he at least get the option 40 contract?
yeah,
No.
yeah, right.
Oh yeah.
Mhm. But so anyway, I ended up doing that and loved it, But at the same time, I had heard so many old school kind of like fun stories from like Nam and good stuff that, and just seeing the movies and stuff. I was like, man, I want something a little more tighter, like a tighter group. And so I ended up getting into this Lurch unit, and it was 6-man team, and
Yep.
it was a lot more enjoyable for me. But we were still going, and it was a National Guard unit out of Indiana, and in fact, it's the only National Guard unit to go to Vietnam. They actually was deployed to Vietnam, and they still could jump. And I'm like, hey, I still want to jump out of planes. And but they were, this National Guard unit was kind of odd because they're getting French Commando school and Halo school and all these cool schools, and they're doing all this cool stuff. So I went and did that, and it was really fun. But then, of course, 9/11 and stuff happened, and I'm like, I was still in the reserves, right, or in the Guard, and I'm like, hey, are you guys deploying? And they're like, no, not right now. So I'm like, well, I want to go. I want to go to Iraq. I need to transfer units and find out who's going. So I transferred, me and a couple of the buddies transferred units tried to transfer units to another unit that we hear was getting deployed. And our commander's like, you're not going anywhere. I'm not allowing you to, because he goes, if I allow you guys to leave, because I know the entire Lurch unit wants to go to war right now. So if I allow you guys to leave, I won't have a Lurch unit. So he ended up no going that. And then so I moved to Miami, and living in Miami, doing construction. And I don't like, I at the time I couldn't even know how to read a tape measure. So I just was working construction. It was legal, and the guy loved me because I was legal in Miami, and so the next thing you know, I'm still trying to find a way to get to the war. And I signed into a unit in Miami. It was an infantry unit. I thought, well, maybe they'll get deployed soon. And then, well, that's when my buddies called me about Blackwater, so that kind of changed everything for me. Because I was going broke, I was living in Miami and having electricity turned off in my apartment that was on a third floor, in the summertime. Not fun.
So let's catch everybody up for those who don't understand some military. So went to Bragg, went to sniper school,
Yep.
did some reserve time. Wasn't going to let you go. I mean, you weren't going to get out and go do what you wanted to do, right? So I pop out, I go on the civilian side, I'm going to Miami, living life. I'm still missing something. Boom, Blackwater shows.
Yeah. I mean, I was still shooting. I was still active. I was still competing, doing, sniper competitions and stuff. Yep. So I was still primed as far as shooting goes.
Yeah.
And I was shooting really well. I was just broke. And then,
right.
So then an old friend of mine called and said, hey, told me about Blackwater and was like, hey, because when I was in the Army, I actually sent my resume to Executive Outcomes, which was private military.
They were early in the game.
Yeah, early in the game. And I sent a resume to them and Sandline International, and was like, hey, I want to work as I thought it was cool to get paid and fight. Honestly,
well,
I thought
EO was mostly in Africa, I think, at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And Sierra Leone. And so I was like, and of course I was like a private, and they're like, what's your skills? And I'm like, I could shoot a belt fed machine gun.
Right.
Never heard back from him. But so now, my friend calls me and he's like, hey, Blackwater's paying guys $600 a day to go over. And he just, he was like the best seller, he was like the best marketing guy ever, because he was just like, there's no rules, like you get to do what you want,
literally the wild listen. Let's kind of go back. All the private security at that time, Blackwater's the name everyone knows, and we talked about EO before. There's some other groups. A lot of guys, we leave, we go, and we're like, hey, what can we do? We're either going to go to a job that translates, or we want to go do some contracting. So that's a very natural route, especially with certain skill sets, right? So everyone goes. Nobody heard about Blackwater. Eric Prince gets this contract, and at the time, it was a big deal. Nothing like it is now, right? But it was a big deal. I'm going to go do this, and so fast forward. So Eric, so the private security at the time, Blackwater's main purpose was to what? Guard some dignitaries, and was that their main focus, or were they just to EO? They were to maintain obedience in certain areas.
I had a couple of contracts. One was to protect. I remember it was Knotted Engineers was the name of it. So it was going out and protecting engineers do something, maybe clear minefields, or I don't think there was that many minefields in Iraq, but they were out there, and they were out there in the desert. Like, I remember they had, one of my friends was on that contract, and they had no support. They were just out there on their own. And then they got the ambassador's contract, which was the biggest. It was the biggest high profile, and it was because the Secret Service did the risk assessment, and they're like, okay, yeah, we can't. It's don't
not
know
their skill set, right? Yeah. Well, and the other side of it too, guys. The thing. Let me just make a broad statement. This isn't Dave's words. These are going to be my words. Private military contractors at the time, it was really nice for the agency to have those guys because, they're contractors. They're doing their thing. Right. Nobody buys that shit now. Right. But that was, the PMCs across. Now, Blackwater became the biggest one. But in my opinion, these are my words. Blackwater's a scapegoat for a lot of the early stuff. It was a wild.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh,
I mean, that's fair.
Oh, yeah.
So you guys, You guys had the most targeted, you were on a detail guard and the most targeted man in the world at one time.
And I was the only one that made the Bremer detail. And I think it was just because I was so active in shooting so much, because they did not care what unit you came from. Those instructors at the time, we all wore numbers.
But that was early in the game. Now, I mean, now you've got everybody coming out. SEALs got sexy all of a sudden. Delta's talking but not talking. You know, they were always pulling from. Listen, they were always pulling from 75th. Everybody knew that. They're pulling from second bat, and then if you had just a specialty skill, they're like, oh, we can use you. You don't have to be super shooter, but you can do this. You know how to get information. So it's become more refined over the years. Who's probably the coolest? It could be cool, like cool guy, or just kind of like cool, like holy crap. Who's the that you can talk about? Who's some of the coolest folks that you've been on detail that you've guarded that you can talk about?
Yeah. Got
a king in there?
Yeah. King Abdullah II of Jordan. He was very, very cool. Not to mention, you know, what makes that guy so cool is he's a man's man. Like, he's free fall certified, scuba certified.
He can get down.
A long range gun. Yeah, he's cool. I would have to say the other one that I thought was really humbling as far as just really down to earth for being who they were was the president of Kurdistan, Barzani. He very, very cool. But you know, there's been a lot, you know, I mean, working for, you know, working at Koch Industries in Wichita for you know, the Koch family. I mean, Mr. Koch was still one of the smartest individuals I've ever worked for.
Amazing human. Brilliant. And you know, he's not as much in the political game as he used to, but when he was in the, you know, 15 years ago, heavy in politics, he was an active soul, and he had a lot of people that were interested in him.
And you know, and now I can't mention any names, but you know, I'm with a very influential man in the crypto space, and he's just like, again, I'm so blessed to be working for a guy that's so down to earth and humbling and humble, and just has like a real good heart, you know, and has a you know, and cares about the impact that he's making on society. It's not just about a dollar, you know, so that matters, you know.
Well, you know, I obviously I know who the guy is, and I think that the crypto's one thing, but what he's working on for the future is going to change the world.
Right. Yep. 100%.
So we'll just leave it at that. We're not giving out anything else after that. So April 4th, 2004. The first day of the Battle of Najaf. What were you doing that day?
You know, it's funny because you know, it's like we were actually on a mission. I was on half the day because I was sniper, and there was, you know, I had double duty. So half the day would be like the AM shift would work the morning with Bremer all the way up until like say 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And then the PM shift would come in and work the night. So I would have to work the morning, and then at 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. when everybody would go to the pool, Saddam's old pool, and lay out, I would have to go get into the Little Birds. And now I'm flying air support for those guys, which they were flying for me earlier. So long days, 18-hour days, you know. So that day on April 4th, you know, that was a week before that, we had 4 of our guys ambushed and drugged down the street and hung off a bridge. So, you know,
that set the tone. I'm glad you brought that up. So, you know, that's just, it sets the tone for what happened, because when you heard that your teammates were being attacked basically from 3 different sides and needed resupply. You know, you had, not only were your coworkers murdered, dragged on the streets, hung off of a bridge, which is terrible for anybody, let alone know them. but that was your time and quote, it was your time to kind of saddle up.
Yeah. So we were that day we were we were supposed to go see this guy. I called him the Ayatollah of rock and rolla, Solder. And I don't know his first name, but I know his last name is Solder, and I know the city that we're going to is named Solder, so it's named after his bloodline. And it was Solder City is pretty well known. It's like the Compton of Baghdad, and it was just not a good area. But we had been to this guy's house a couple times before that, and it was kind of always. It was weird because you're in the house looking at these guys and they got AK-47s. You're staring at them. And you're like smiling at them. You're like, don't get
squirrely.
Don't get squirrely, But it was all kind of a little awkward. But we had a guy in there that it didn't look like he spoke Arabic, but he was fluent, and he would always be in the house. We never talking in Arabic or anything, obviously, because he was the only one that spoke it. But he was in there, and this day he was in there, and the advanced team's there early, right, to get everything set up before Bremer, and we're in the parking lot of the palace. I am suited up, ready to go, and and then so the guy I see the agent in charge, Frank, come out all kitted up. He's got his M4 and he's got his body armor on, which he never wore body armor and he never carried M4 before. So I was like, Frank, what's going on? Why are you all kitted up? And he's like, well, our advanced team called and they told us to reschedule, not to come because it sounds like they're setting up an ambush for us. And I'm like, really? And he goes, yeah. So I went and told the Ambassador Bremer, hey, sir, we need to reschedule. It sounds like they're setting up an ambush. Our guy inside hears these guys talking and they're saying, oh, just be patient in the beginning. And well, how many guns do you think they're having? Blah, blah, blah. But the ambassador said, you guys get paid a lot of money to do what you do. And I don't want to look, I don't forget what word it was, or afraid or look, whatever. He said, we're going. So Frank said, so we're going. So we're like, damn, like
we don't have a good threat assessment yet, though, man. Are
you
sure?
like we don't even have a good feeling about this, and he still is like, I'm going. Like, that's ballsy. So Bremer takes the meeting. Frank has little birds on station. He has F-16s flying over, and Bremer wrote about that in his book later on. He didn't like that very much, but hey, we thought we were going to get hit. So. We did.
Bremer thought it showed a sign of weakness.
Well, he was just like, he's in there trying to negotiate and be diplomatic.
And yet we've got big guns going. Yeah.
So he's so distracting and a bit.
Yeah.
He didn't like the vibe it was giving off. So, but it kept him alive. And our advanced team did get hit on the way home. Everyone lived, but so we get back home and that's when me and Travis kind of have similar stories. They kind of, I don't know it's been a long time, but, regardless, Frank called me and was like, hey, get round up some of the door gunners and get down there. And
we're talking Frank Gallagher.
Yeah. Frank said, hey, he gave me the deal. He's like, hey, or I knew the deal for somewhere. Hey, our boys are surrounded. They're surrounded from three. They're getting hit on three different sides. They're running out of ammunition. It's like 800 or something of them is what we were told, and they're not going to last long. At this point in time, I was still kind of green. I was the youngest guy on the entire Bremer detail, and so I was the cherry of the group, and I was I was pretty scared. At this point, I'm hearing they're surrounded. There's 800 to 1. I'm just thinking in my mind, Mogadishu and Randy Shugart and Gary Gordon, two snipers that I looked up to who are both dead, so I'm like, and so, but the one of our head pilots, Steve Chilton, he flew little birds in Somalia. He flew little birds in Panama. He flew little birds in Grenada. Like, this dude had more hours flying at nighttime than most guys have during the day. He's a master. But so it was funny because, like, out of all these SEAL Team 6 guys and Delta Force and Rangers and Recon Marines and would name it was everybody from everybody there. But out of everybody, it was Steve, the pilot, who's like rounded everybody up and was like, hey, listen, everybody, like, chill out, like, take a breath. Like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to stop off in Babylon, refuel, get some frequencies to the Army's helicopters, and then we'll go in. All right. So it's like, okay, cool. Still loaded those birds down with so much stuff, as
Well, you kind of talked about that. You had you had those things so loaded up that you're like, shit, are we going to get up and out of here?
Yeah, I was worried. We barely trimmed the treetops at the end. So yeah, that was something else. But yeah, and then we get to Babylon, and so I'm kind of on the way there. I'm kind of praying, I'm like, this is pretty scary stuff, so I'm saying my prayers and regretting all the bad stuff I did in life. And then
Right. Yeah, you had your convenient prayers, and we all do that. So, okay, if you get me through this,
yeah,
here's what I'll listen.
where
We've all done it.
yeah. And then so we stop off at the army base there in Babylon and refuel, and I go in, and Steve's in there, and the guys knew him. Hey, Steve, whatever. So he's like trying to get the frequencies, and one of the guys is like, well, I know you guys aren't going in there, right? I know you're not going in Najaf. And Steve's like, no way. Like, he goes, man, we're contractors. Nobody cares about us. We ain't that crazy. And the guy's like, okay, well, he gives Steve his numbers, 4 whatever, and then
and here's Steve.
So then I go out to the bird, and I'm like, I'm actually relieved now. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm not.
Yeah, you're like, oh, this is great.
I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna die. And then Steve comes out, and then there's some major or colonel, I can't remember, comes out following him, but Steve doesn't know the guy's following him. Steve comes out and is like, load him up, boys, we're going in. And so the guy's eyes behind him was just like, got all big, like, oh my God, when the shit hits the fan, what are you going to do? Are you going to freeze? Are you going to, because honestly, growing up as a kid, like, I kind of dreamed of being in war,
Right,
I dreamed honestly of being a hero and getting the Medal of Honor and stuff like that. So I'm like, now the time's come, and I did, like, after that, the pilot got me in a different mode. I was like, yeah, I started, yeah, like, let's do this, and it was awesome. We came in, and first we came in, and we come up on the rooftops, and we start dumping off ammo on the rooftops, and one of the guys is waving me off, like, get out of here. So I'm like,
because it's hot. Yeah,
and he's right there, but I'm like, I know he's out of ammo. Like, I don't know what he's thinking. So we get back up, we orbit for a little bit longer, and then we come in, and these guys put these helicopters, like, literally maybe 16 inches, the blades from each one.
From the rotors. Yeah.
Oh yeah, apart. I mean, they're like this from apart, buildings, power lines. I mean, again, just like watching masters at work, pretty impressive, but so we land, and as soon as we land, one of this dude, Ben Thomas, I think he was a SEAL. He had this Marine that was shot up, and the Army couldn't come in. They wasn't allowing any medevacs or anybody to. And we were trying to get the Apache to anyway. So he had this Marine that was shot up. So I put him on my bird, and then I guess Travis ends up taking him off my bird, putting him on his bird, and Travis and Steve Chilton fly back to Baghdad to the hospital to drop the Marine. At the time, I was like, honestly, reason I didn't think about putting the Marine on and going back is because I didn't want to leave. I was like, it's game time.
You went from oh my gosh to oh shit, I'm in the fight. This is it.
Yeah. So and then I make my way up to the rooftop, and I'll never forget it. Like on the rooftop was this Navy SEAL, another SEAL. Blackwater was heavy on SEALs.
Well, I mean, because of Eric. I mean, right.
So, but the first guy I see is this dude named Zach Hawes, and he's big mutton chops, and I'm like, I get to the roof, I'm like, Zach, we're here to rescue you, we're here to get you out, we're here to rescue you, man. And he's just like this laid back kind of stoner dude. He's just like, rescue us. He's just like, man, I've already got like. He said some crazy number like of kills. Like, he's like, I'm not going anywhere, bro. He's like, this is the Alamo. And then I'm like, all right, right on, dude, And so I went to the next guy, and basically all the Najaf boys were like, fuck, we're not leaving. We're not going anywhere. And so I'm like, okay, I like it. I respect it. Let's do it. And so it was like, let's throw down. Hey, Frank, the guys are refusing to leave. But there's, so there's some civilians there. So there's some civilians here that want to come back. That like really want to come back and get out of here. And Frank was like, yeah, I don't care about them. Like, they're not important.
Yeah, that's yeah, right.
He's like, there's, they're tell them to, drink some water and put foot powder on, I think was his exact quote. And so he was like, no, those birds are for Bremer. So eventually we had to bring them back. Now, I mean, some time expired. We threw down with them with Mahdi Army. General Sanchez shows up, and I'll never forget when he showed up, because he comes in on this Black Hawk. This is after a while, right? This is like right. It's been hours and hours, and this might even So he comes in and he's like, "Who's in charge here?" And this private goes, "He is," and pointed at one of the Blackwater guys, and he's like, "No, I mean, who's in charge of the compound or of this outpost," and or whatever term he used, and this specialist was like, he is, sir. And he pointed to White Boy, another Blackwater guy. And that, I just remember he got so upset at that. And he was just like, who was the highest ranking U.S. military official on the ground? And where, take me to him or whatever. But the fact that those guys, but that's how it was whenever we were throwing down on those rooftops, a lot of the Blackwater guys was just directing fire. It wasn't just the because there was El Salvador's, there was Polish, there was some Marines up there. There was other contingents that were there fighting. So I remember a lot of Blackwater guys just trying to command and just really command all those kind of smaller units that didn't have anybody in charge of them. So, but yeah, it was a crazy time, Brian. But it's like, I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for saying this, but I look back on it. I mean. And it's like, why did they attack us? And I mean, Najaf is the holiest city in Iraq, and I'm pretty sure in my opinion, they attacked us because we were there, not because we were American and they hate freedom.
Right. Yeah. No, so, I think if you were to flip it around and you had the opposition insert place here.
Oh yeah,
there would be a problem.
Game on. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, right. It's like, hey, you came into our turf and you're pissing on our rooftop.
Yeah. Yeah, but so, really, Brian, I mean, all in all, between Iraq and Afghanistan, I have 59 months between the two countries over there. And, I had a lot of teammates that would I guess maybe to get through it or whatever, would just kind of look at them as savages and, kind of less than human. But honestly, for me, I never really took personal. I was like, man, I'd be doing the same thing if they're in the U.S. So it's
exactly. Yeah, no, exactly right. So, a lot of the BW, the Blackwater guys are talking now. There's been a lot of pardons issued, from some nonsense, which is great. So that I think that's why we're hearing a little bit more. So let's push some of that aside. So you've been you've done a lot of protection over the years. Where's the coolest, maybe the most beautiful place outside of the U.S. that you've been?
For me, there was a little town in Thailand that I just was like, man, this place is awesome. I could live here. A little town called Krabi, and I just kind of went there on a whim, and I was staying out of the U.S. because of tax reasons. So I was like, I either come back to the U.S. and pay a ton of taxes, or just stay on vacation for a while, an extra month. And so I rented a moped and was just cruising around, and I discovered this little town of Krabi, and I just ended up staying another additional 2 months. I loved it.
And lived for $12.
Totally. Yeah. My moped was $30 a month. My little bungalow was like $200 a month. It was crazy. But one thing I'd like to kind of share with people from all those years of going back and forth, I would be going overseas and sleeping like a baby on the plane, and then coming back home, I would be a nervous wreck. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is backwards. It shouldn't be this way. And I had to do a lot of like self-reflecting, and I'm like, why is that? Why am I having all this anxiety coming home? And my hypothesis is, what I've kind of broke it down to, is whenever I was going over there, my only worry was staying alive, and I felt most of the time pretty good at my field craft. I feel like it was going to keep me alive and stuff, my teammates and all. Food, didn't have to think about it. Bills, didn't have to think about it. Like, your only thing to think about was staying alive, you and your team. And then, so honestly, life is a lot simpler like that. So all the stresses are gone, although that stress can be big. But then all of a sudden I come home and I have relationship stuff going on, and bills and errands.
You have to deal with life
and traffic. And honestly, coming back to it, I was just like, whoa, it was like going 200 miles an hour. I felt like I was in a tunnel of like a wind, just 200-mile-an-hour wind blowing at me. I'm just, I wanted to yell like, everybody slow down for a second.
right.
And sure enough, I would be home for about a week, and that anxiety would go away, because your body adjusts to it.
Sure it does.
And you don't feel it anymore. But what my point is that stress is still there, And so a lot of people don't think about it, because they don't feel it, because their body, but go away on an island for 2 months, 3 months, and then all of a sudden come back, and you'll be like, man, I need to change the way I'm doing things, because I'm going to die before long. I mean, I'm just burning myself out. You gotta, stress is horrible for the body.
It's the worst. I mean, I think some people would say, if you could live a stress-free life or smoke a pack of cigarettes a day, the pack of cigarettes would probably be less harmful than the stressful life. Right?
It's true. I know. I'm telling you.
Well, and I think that a lot of folks, whether it's contracting or from the military, they have that same transition. It's like, I'm here to do a job and I'm getting paid. I have food. I don't have to worry. Now, when I ETS, oh wait, I don't have barracks. I don't have free room and board. I'm not getting a COLA adjustment here. I'm not getting separate rats for the family. What is going on? And that's, I think, obviously the transition of the horrors of gunfights and wars and all of that. But the other transition is, wait a minute, this is real life. I don't have somebody giving me X. Yes, I might make more money, but I had a controlled environment. We're going to do something a little opposite. So about 10 years ago this year, 10 years ago, you, while in Kansas, you were working there in Kansas, you decided to join and become a Mason. And you stayed just kind of at the Blue Lodge, and you got to travel around a lot. You joined with another Dave Thomas at the same time.
That's true. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So followers of this podcast, they see that Dave Thomas on here quite a bit. He's our historian. So we talked about
very cool.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
So we did something unique that year. When everyone was raised, we were, that lodge, very busy lodge, very active lodge, a lot of folks. Well, we were doing degree work. And then on a Saturday, we tried something different where we brought everyone in on a Saturday. They did the first section of their third degree. Then we went to refreshment, had dinner, and then came back and let the third degree ensue. So you were part of those classes, right?
Yeah. And honestly, Brian, I feel so blessed, man. I really do that you were there, and that I was a part of that experience with, you raising me and doing all that, because it's just, like, man, I just don't know how you knew everything. I don't even know how to get into it, but it's like, man, I just want to say thank you for that. I mean, I've told everybody that was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had, and that was super meaningful. And so I just want to. We don't get to talk a lot, but
Yeah.
Thank you, man, for that. That was
No,
super
no.
awesome.
That's the cool thing about masonry. So for our non-masons that watch the podcast or folks that are thinking about getting in masonry, uh, especially folks who are in the military, if you're in the military, insert 4 years to 24 years, whatever, that camaraderie you have when you get out. And we just talked about the chaos in life. Like you're going to get hit with real life stuff. Masonry can give you a little bit of that bridge. And you're going to find a very similar camaraderie because you will have gone through it the way that we did, much like in basic training or whatever that you do, or eating crayons in the Marines, all of those things. Well, you go through the same thing. But the bond of masonry, and those who watched our podcast with Kevin Kahn, prior military, he said, had great experiences with my guys that I served with. But I can call them and they may not call me back as fast, but if I call a Mason, it's almost an instant return. And it's no knock, we're all prior service guys and
Mhm.
it's no knock. It's just different. And I think part of it is we're a little more mature, we're older, and I think maybe some of the lessons that, sometimes, when you go through, it's just a fire hose of stuff. It's like,
Right. Yeah.
it's one, like, how do they remember all this? Two, what did I hear? Three, I need to come back because I don't know if I don't know if I remember how to get in the lodge. Right. And there's all of the right, it's all of these things. But it's reality. And whatever you or whatever a listener is feeling, we've all felt that. So if you're like, all right, I haven't been in lodge in a while, call one of the guys that call the secretary, call the master, say, man, obviously, I'm in good standing. I just need to make sure that I can get in lodge and they not think I'm some damn Cowan. Oh, no problem. Just show up a little bit before we'll get you in. Right.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
reality of it. Right. That's
Yeah.
and you're very busy. It's hard for you to do a lot of stuff where you're at. A lot of the times, what you'll be a couple of weeks on, maybe 3 days off type thing.
Yeah. Yep. Uh, but yeah, I'm getting ready to get back into. I'm actually just now kind of getting settled. We are from the move. So that's this year. I'll be back in the lodge here in
Well,
the Caneo Lodge.
Well, you just whenever you're ready to make that transition, we know anybody you want to know there. So
Oh, nice. Yeah.
they've been
Yeah.
on
Cool.
this podcast. We've got Grand Lodge officers of California that have been on the podcast already. Gabriel Metascal will be reaching out to you. And by the way, Dave, if you haven't seen it, Gabe was on. He's a good looking dude out of Northern California, former drill instructor. You wouldn't think it, right? So
Right.
yeah, so that's the podcast. So Dave, I appreciate you coming on the Old Fashioned Masonic podcast. Cheers.
Cheers, brother. Thanks for having me.